So today we're going to be talking about Spar varnish. I'm going to be comparing Epifanes versus Totalboat Lust. They're both marine Spar varnishes, which simply means they're 3-part varnishes. They're going to have an oil, a resin, and a UV absorber of some sort. Epifanes has tung oil as its oil. Totalboat uses linseed oil. I've been excited about this video for a while. If you're new to the channel, I appreciate your time. If you subscribe to the channel, I appreciate your time also. Do me a favor, if you're new to the channel and just come in here because of the Epifanes versus Totalboat, stop right now, subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of the next episodes we drop. Again, appreciate your time. I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks so much. Both Epifanes and Totalboat have an amber dry finish color to them. They're not a stain, but as the oils that are in them are going to dry in kind of an amber color. They're not going to yellow. They're not going to turn gold. Some of the differences between Epifanes and Totalboat is going to be their finish time. I selected to go with Lust for our interior salon refit project because of the dry time and the ability to recoat rapidly. One of the benefits to a Spar varnish is its flexibility and durability, of which both Epifanes and Totalboat has. Epifanes has a long tack up time. Its tack up time is 3 hours. Totalboat Lust has a tack up time really fast. In fact, its recoat time is an hour. You do not have to sand in between coats with Totalboat. Both Totalboat and Epifanes have very thick flows. So it's going to remind you kind of like maple syrupy, like that thick kind of molasses kind of feel to it. Let's talk about thinning. When you apply varnish to bare wood, you're going to thin it out so it can seal the wood. You're not going to want to use solid, thick, unthinned varnish. Both Epifanes and Totalboat are proprietary as far as their thinning goes. So if you're using Epifanes, you're going to want to use their brush thinner, Epifanes brush thinner. If you use Totalboat, you're going to want to use Totalboat's brush thinner as well. One thing to note is with Epifanes, you really have to sand in between coats. Totalboat, that's not the case. Totalboat, since it dries so fast and its ability to level itself out so rapidly, you don't have to sand over each coat, and you can just keep laying on coats. Now, I like to sand in between coats, but I don't do it every time. And that's the thing I love about Totalboat, is it gives me options. Totalboat Lust gives me the option of, typically what I do is I'll lay on 3 coats, then sand. Lay on 3 coats, then sand. It helps me fill up the imperfections that might be in the wood from the grain, different levels, if I hadn't sanded all the way down and gotten everything perfectly level. Let's talk about wet edges on varnishing. It's very important when we're comparing Epifanes to Totalboat because the wet edge time is vastly different. Having worked with Epifanes in the past, the wet edge lasts a very long time. In fact, the tack time for Epifanes is about 3 hours. So your wet edge is going to last a lot longer. Totalboat Lust, which is a quick drying varnish, is going to flash off a lot faster. So your wet edge is going to last about 45 seconds. Now this depends completely on how much you've thinned the product, the air temperature and humidity, and actually the temperature of the product you're applying it to, the wood. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing that. So we're using Lust for the project on the interior of the boat, and the wet edge is really fast. Some of the benefits and some of the drawbacks that I've noticed. The benefit of having a wet edge that's able to stay wet for a lot longer is its ability to blend. So when you dip, brush, and go back in, you're going to be able to blend that wet edge a lot easier. Now there's some positives and negatives that I've seen to dry times. Working outside on the cap rails or the rails of the boat, the bright work, using Epifanes, the tack time's 3 hours. Now there's a huge consideration in the marine world for this. that is going to mean you're exposing your bright work to contaminants that are in the air. Now, unless you're working in a boat yard where your boat is completely boothed off and you have negative airflow pressure, contaminants are going to be an issue. Most of us are going to be doing our bright work varnishing outside at the marina or at a mooring. And that's going to introduce a lot of contaminants, bugs, dust, hair, anything floating around. Somebody walks by can stir up contaminants on the docks and it gets in your finish. So that's going to be a big consideration, and that's one of the factors why I decided to switch over to Totalboat. Was I wasn't happy with what was happening because Epifanes takes so long to get tacky. There was so many bugs or so much debris in my bright work. I would spend a lot of extra time sanding in between coats. One thing to note about Totalboat is it does have the ability to overcoat on other varnishes. Okay, so let's take a look at what they look like. So we're going to take a look at Lust. We're going to take a look at what this guy looks like. Typically, I would tell you, if I was doing a project, I would use a strainer for my varnish. Gets out any contaminants, any lumps that might be in there. Definitely stir it up a lot. Stick. Varnish you don't want to shake. It introduces a lot of air bubbles to it. So you definitely don't want to shake it. I'm going to try to show you the color of it. So that's the color of it. That's the color of it. So you can see it's pretty thick. Let's have a look at Epifanes. One thing you'll notice right off the bat is Epifanes is a bit darker. You're never good at that. So here you go. And let me give you a color difference, which I think this is important, you know, especially if we're working on our boats or you're doing fine furniture or something like that, whatever brought you to the channel. So you can see Epifanes is here and it's a little darker. So Totalboat looks a little more like honey, as where Epifanes looks a little more like maple syrup. So that's the color difference. In part 2, we'll be diving into the application of Epifanes and Totalboat. We'll be comparing color, flow, wet edge, finish coats, and lastly, which products work best for us, our application, and why we picked it. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss part 2 of Epifanes versus Totalboat.